What's that old saying? Change is inevitable, and in the car world, that means more efficiency, which means more electrification, but not just full EV, it means the efficiency of internal combustion engines. And yes, we've had hybrids around for a long time. However, what's happening as of late is not just Porsche hybrids being tuned for sport. That list is now including hybrids that are designed for retirees. The question is, do we embrace this change, or do we become offended by it? Okay, so what exactly is this thing? First and foremost, it is a Lexus ES 300 hybrid. Translated to what you and I would understand, it is a Toyota parallel hybrid. It is not a plug-in. It does not have like 20 or 50 miles of EV-only driving range. There is an EV mode, but that is meant for like parking lot maneuvers. In this application of a 2.5 Atkinson cycle 4-cylinder engine, 176 horsepower and 163 pound-feet of torque. However, when you add the electric motor, total system horsepower is 215. Now there are 204 lithium-ion cells underneath the back seat, so very good placement both low in the vehicle as well as sort of in the middle of the vehicle. And frankly, like we learned in previous ES300 hybrid episodes, it does not impact the driving dynamics. Then we get into really what this thing is, and that is a front-wheel drive vehicle that is designed for efficiency. However, this one's an F-Sport, so it's more tuned for sport. Does it change the horsepower output? No. Does it change the performance figures? No. Does it change the fuel economy? No, and that's an important thing about this vehicle. 43, 44, 44 combined. Performance figures, that is something you'd expect of an ES300 hybrid. 8.1 seconds to 60 and electronically limited Vmax to 112. Now before we get started here, a gentle reminder. Would greatly appreciate your help with the algorithm. What does that mean? Yes, subscribing, click notifications, definitely hitting that old like button, leaving a comment, but most importantly, sharing this with your friends on all your socials, especially Reddit. With that, 3,730 pounds, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 1,692 kilograms. Kind of a surprise, not very heavy considering the size of this vehicle. With that, oh yes, it's a hybrid. That's sport mode. It starts to wake up at about 4,000 RPM, but I'm kind of sandbagging you here. This is not really the best use case for this vehicle. This thing is designed to be used by your grandparents in places like Del Boca Vista, Palm Springs, and for that, it's a moderately quick vehicle. There's a really good handoff between the electric motor and the gas motor. There's a lot of instances where I find myself using the EV mode when it's sufficiently charged, which makes the vehicle very pleasant to use. The only thing that is not pleasant about the way it delivers power is the transmission. You will not be surprised to learn it is a CVT. Now, I understand why they do it. It's part of the whole Toyota Synergy hybrid drive suite of technologies. Kind of goes together with this engine. And yeah, it'd probably be a huge investment to change this to like an 8-speed geared transmission, but I'd have to say it would make a huge difference in the drivability, especially if you're trying to make it more of a sporty vehicle. And yeah, if you had like 8 or 9 gears, you could probably get the same fuel economy and make it an overall better driving experience. Driving dynamics will not be a huge surprise for you folks. It is effectively the same setup as the regular hybrid ES. So a bit of a recap there. It's struts in the front, it's multi-link in the back, but what they do to the front to overcome all of that extra weight of the two propulsion systems, they do have a stabilizer bar. And then the brakes, they haven't changed from regular to F-Sport. So that's 12-inch diameter rotors in the front, 11.1-inch diameter rotors in the rear. Now, will this mean anything to the folks who would actually write a check for this vehicle? Probably not. But here is what wow, man, that traction control really gets in there. What will really drive a point home to the folks who actually will write a check for this thing is, what does that all mean to ride quality? And there, it's a Lexus. It's a little bit better than the normal Lexus. So some of the tuning here, it's more composed. It's not a huge difference like the F-Sport V6 ES was. That was significantly different because it had a different damper setup. This, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, it's the same damper setup, but ultimately it's good around town, and that's really what this vehicle is about. It's probably one of the best conveyances for normal civilians who kind of have a passing interest in cars. Maybe not car people, but cars that are screwed together well and will last long and have a good ride quality. That's kind of the secret sauce of this thing. The F-Sport just makes it look a bit better and ultimately ride a bit better while still getting better fuel economy. And something I do want to point out, so I've been driving this thing for a couple days before I drove it up to the shoot road, and I've been averaging around town pretty good, 31.5 mpg as the car tells me. But coming up here, pushing it more aggressively on these roads, I'm only down to 29 mpg. And something to take into account, it's a 113-inch wheelbase. So not exactly as long as like an E-Class or a 5 Series, but it is longer than like a Civic or a Kia Forte or something like that. And when you consider how big this vehicle is and how well it's screwed together, and then it's a luxury car, and around town I'm doing almost 32 mpg, that's otherworldly. No, it's not that time to play your favorite game of mine, the options game, because this car is really new. It's so new that it ain't out yet. We're literally the first ones getting this car from Lexus in North America. So much so, this is probably the first only film on YouTube of this car. And that means there's no pricing on it. There's no pricing until September. So rather than just passing on the concept of playing a round of our favorite game, let's try to guesstimate what the pricing is from other ES hybrids and F-Sports. So to give you an idea, the most basic ES 300 hybrid starts at $41,910. There's a middle-of-the-road model that's $47,110, and then the top line, ultra luxury, $50,910. Let's take that basic one, $41,910, and let's take the F-Sport package from the ES 350 we drove about a year and a half ago. That package was $5,800. Now it includes a lot of stuff, especially a lot of stuff inside the vehicle, which we'll talk about later, but most importantly, understand that the 19-inch wheels are part of that $5,800 package. So let's put that off to the side. Then the color, it is stunning, Santa Maria, Madre de Dios, and I did have something to do with this. Originally, the folks from Lexus were gonna put on the west coast of the US a silver car in their fleet. Kumo threw up all over that idea and said, please, oh please, oh please, do not do that. Thus, we have ultrasonic blue 2.0. This is not extra cost, but it is stunning to look at, especially with the contrast of the white and black two-tone interior. Then we press on to the first factory-fitted option, which is my favorite, the head-up display, $500. The power rear sunshade, $210. Then something I've always thought is a curious option on a moderately priced luxury car, the triple beam LED headlights. Yeah, the car should have it, but at $1,515, that is a hell of a lot of money on a car that's already 50 grand. Please make those standard. Then the power trunk, $550. The navigation package, that's optional on a $50,000 car, $1,820. Then the premium package, this adds a lot, but most importantly, the heated and the cooled seats. I've used these a lot in the past couple of days, $1,375. Then something else that is really offensive to be optional on a vehicle that starts at $41,000, the Qi wireless charger, 75 bucks, really? Let's change that. Now that leaves us with only two more items we need to focus on. First and foremost, something that is not normally associated with a Lexus ES hybrid, Frankly, something that is not normally associated with any hybrid that is front-wheel drive, no matter the manufacturer, and that would be the rear spoiler. And here, Kumo and I, we're betting this is part of the F-Sport package, so we're gonna put it in that $5,800 bucket, which leaves us just the destination and handling, not from Georgetown, Kentucky. Yes, ESs are indeed made in Georgetown, Kentucky, as well as in Ontario, Canada. However, that's the ICE. The hybrids are made in Kyushu, Japan. Now, the interesting thing about that, the destination is exactly the same, whether the car comes from Japan, Ontario, Canada, or Kentucky, USA, $1,045, which brings us to our total guesstimate. This is not the official MSRP. This is our guesstimate, taking all of the data points that Kumo and I found, $54,780. You know what? Let's try a little game here. In our socials, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, you take a guess what you think the official MSRP will be for this exact vehicle, meaning the blue one with the cool seats, with all these options. So if I were reading the tea leaves correctly, I would go so far as to saying that the F-Sport integration on the hybrid flavor of the ES is more about the interior. There's a couple of things that stand out. Biggest would be the seats. You and I have talked about these in other Lexus. They're more scooped out. Yeah, there's bolstering, but it's not like crazy bolstering like the M3 and M4 we recently drove. But it's one of the better seats out there, and that you feel like you are sitting in the seat, not on the seat. I'd like to see these in more Lexus, and I will go so far as to saying I actually kind of like the white and black two-tone, although I'm under no delusions that this will look good in like 2 years of ownership. And then there's one of the things I love in Lexus F Sport, and that's the cool gauge that came from the LFA, where it slides from side to side. I am a sucker for that. And yeah, it's a hybrid. I'm under no delusion that it makes the car faster, but I love playing with that toy. And then there's the reality of just the way this thing is screwed together. It is a Lexus. And yeah, it's a little bit sportier on the inside. They changed some of the color and trim, but the textures, the tactile feel, the things that are important about a Lexus, that is all still retained, whether it's an F Sport, a hybrid, an ES, or the LC. Now, yes, I will admit that last one perhaps could be a bit better build quality because it's almost double the price of this car. However, there are some things that could use some help here, which I'm kind of scratching my head. It's a Lexus, and why don't you throw in the extra $5-10 at cost it would take to fix them? Things like this panel here, or the panels underneath the seat cushions. It feels like it's coming from a Kia, not even a Toyota. Anyway, just saying. So I'm just going to throw this right out there. No, as car guys and gals, we should not be offended by the concept of a Lexus hybrid that has been tuned for sport, even one that is focused at retirement communities. Which brings us to the wish list, and here I'm looking for something very specific, more of a division between church and state. If you and I are being very honest about the hybrid marketplace for grandparents and parents that really don't care about cars, there is nothing better than an ES300 hybrid, which gives us an opportunity because there is no longer a GS. So how about making this more of a Porsche hybrid? And all of the bits within Toyota exist. Think about like the Venza or the Prius that's all-wheel drive. There is an electric motor that drives the rear wheels in those vehicles. How about doing that here, but tuning it for performance, meaning making it more of a rear drive vehicle, and then tuning the four-cylinder, making it a bit more, let's say 300 horsepower, total system horsepower. Nothing crazy, but something that is a true division from what Lexus already offers and where they can take hybrid synergy drive. Because frankly, Porsche is kind of eating everybody's lunch in this segment, just saying. And this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV all one word, MotoManTV all one word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And I'm gonna take this opportunity to say this is a very good example of why I ask you guys for help with the algorithm. Clicking like, subscribe, notifications, and most importantly, sharing this with your friends on socials, especially Reddit. The more of these episodes we get out there, the more opportunities like this, meaning the first folks to be driving this vehicle That's the kind of stuff I want to be bringing you, as well as some other unique stuff that we normally don't do, like drive more classic cars. Till I see you in the next episode, bis später.